to our BET News special, Black America Votes, the VP Choice. I'm Michelle Miller. My next guest was in fact on Biden's VP shortlist and has known Kamala Harris for many years, dating back to her time as the first woman and the first African American district attorney in San Francisco. Joining me now is the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, California Congresswoman Karen Bass. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
You tweeted that Kamala Harris is a great choice for VP. Why is she such a strong complement to Joe Biden?
Well, I think yesterday was a beautiful example, seeing the rollout, seeing the two of them together. I think she is a great choice because she is tried, tested, and true. I've known her for many years, back to when she was the DA in San Francisco, and we worked together when I was the state legislature. So I think she's going to provide the type of excitement and unity that we need to get past the next 80 plus days.
As you well know, though, critics have hit her hard on her past record as prosecutor. What can she do to set the record straight, clear the air?
I mean, I don't think that she needs to do anything except for to talk about the future. I think that's the most important thing. And when you have been in office for a long time and served in different roles as she has, you know, over time things develop. But when I worked with her, she was all about reforming the criminal justice system.
We want you to take a look at this clip from our upcoming BET documentary.
There has been a lot that has been distorted about my record. So let me be very clear. I committed my career to reforming the criminal justice system and to correcting those things that I was born knowing were wrong, were flawed, and harmed the community. I'm proud of the work that I did. Was I able to reform the entire system? No, I was not, regrettably. But I continue to work on it. There is so much more work to be done. We've got to be everywhere. And we can never run away from going for the position of power that gives us the ability to be the one to make decisions that are about correcting the flaws, right?
Does she answer her critics?
Well, I think she does. And I think, again, the most important thing that she said was that she has dedicated her life to reforming the system and that she wasn't able to do it. Surprise. I mean, she served in the position for a few years. All of us who have worked on reforms have been able to get some things done. I know I would dramatically like to change the system, but I do have to accept the fact that I can work on incremental reforms, and that's exactly what she's done. That's why I think her focus needs to be the future and what is she's going to do as vice president in a Biden-Harris administration. And I believe with the two of them at the top and Democrats controlling the Senate and the House, we will be able to get transformative legislation accomplished.
On the note of reform, I know you've been in the trenches with the senator on police reform policy. Do you think her policy positions have shifted far enough for younger, more progressive voters?
Well, I do think that they have. But again, the bill that we're working on, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, it's not a revolutionary piece of legislation. It's a legislation that brings about some transformative reforms. And there might be people that want to see the entire system changed. I'm one of them. But it's not going to happen through that one bill. So I think we're going to continue to work together until we ultimately can change all the parts of the system that need changing.
If they win, of all the issues that the Congressional Black Caucus has taken the lead on, what should be the new administration's priority day one?
You know, I don't think the administration is going to have a choice. It's the health of the American people. We're dying by the thousands every day because of the complete corrupt mismanagement, unconscionable mismanagement from this administration of the COVID virus, because that is completely connected to the economy and everything else. So I don't think that a Biden-Harris administration is going to have a choice at all.
Donald Trump said that Harris would be his #1 VP pick to run against. Do you believe that?
Oh, who knows? I think the fact that he can't figure out how to attack her means that he is definitely struggling. And so he's going to resort to where he always goes, which is the bottom of the barrel, and that's going to be racism and sexism. That is going to be, he's already started by talking about she's an angry woman. The only thing that's missing is an angry Black woman, because you know that that's what is implied.
When you think of his challenges to her straight out of the gate, are you on bated breath what her responses will be? Or are you relying on her allies in the field, in the grassroots areas, to come out swinging?
Well, you know what? I think we are all going to swing on her behalf. So she's going to have millions of people at her back, ready to punch, ready to fight, ready to defend her, because we know the kind of racist, sexist onslaught that she is going to face. So I know she won't have any problems throwing a punch, but there's going to be a whole lot of people standing behind her.
Including you, I'm sure. Congresswoman Karen Bass, thank you so much for joining us.
Coming up next, in the midst of the movement for Black lives, can Kamala Harris galvanize grassroots support?
We have to keep holding her feet to the fire, addressing the issues that impact Black communities every single day, and that impact women every single day, and frankly, that impact Black women every single day.
Prosecutors are rewarded for having high conviction rates. Right. Instead of having a smarter measurement of their effectiveness. And the smarter measurement should be public safety. And because you're the chief elected law enforcement officer. So we should be grading them not on conviction rates, but on public safety. And that's going to require them to look at reentry initiatives which actually reduce crime, because you're giving people the resources that they need to actually get back on their feet.
Among the political establishment, Kamala Harris was seen as a safe VP pick, but outside the Beltway, how do Black voters really feel about Senator Harris and the Biden-Harris ticket? And is there a generational divide? My next guest may know the answer to these questions better than anyone. Latosha Brown is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter Fund and is a political strategist who has worked for years to register and mobilize Black voters throughout the country. Also with us is Alicia Garza. She is a co-founder of Black Lives Matter and the principal at the Black to the Future Action Fund. Thank you both for joining us. Latosha, you like the Biden-Harris ticket because you say it will set a new course for a Biden administration. What does that look like?
You know, I think a couple of things. I think the first thing is we have to acknowledge how historic this moment is, that anytime you're breaking the barriers of white male patriarchy, it creates space and room for others and new thinking. Secondly, that part of how this came about was just not because she was a safe candidate. There are those that say that she's a safe candidate now since she's been selected, but quite frankly, Black women fought for this. That there were women all throughout the last couple of months, there were women throughout years that have been fighting for this moment to make sure that we had a Black woman on the ticket, because representation matters. You're going to see Black women engaged in the process and the shaping of agenda and policy and pushing for that ticket, and God willing, if they're elected, to make sure that there's some accountability to our community as well. And then the third thing that I want to share is that there are little Black and brown girls right now that can actually see someone that looks like them, that opens up space and possibilities for them. There are hundreds of folks. We always hear the stories of Black actors and actresses saying that when they saw Ruby Dee or Harry Belafonte, how that opened up the possibility for them. There are Black folks who we know that said that when they saw Thurgood Marshall, they wanted to be a lawyer. Yes, it matters that there's a Black woman that is a VP, because I think not only does it engage and will energize the Black voters, but it also sets a tone around how we serve in the highest offices in this land.
Alicia, I have to say that Senator Harris is not everyone's cup of tea. How is she to overcome that?
Well, I think a few things here. Number one, we should just be mindful, right, that this is the most important election in a generation, and that Black voters and women voters are going to be critical to the outcome of this election cycle. With that being said, you're 100% right. Not all Black voters are in love with Senator Harris. And a lot of that has to do with being in the era of Black Lives Matter and also being in an era of rebellion. Quite frankly, Black communities and Black voters have been failed in many ways by this party. And so we have to hold both in tension with each other, being clear about where we need to go, while also being clear about the agenda that we want to set. And frankly, What is also true is that nobody owes any politician any of their allegiance. Every politician should earn every vote that they covet. And I think that Senator Harris is up for the task, quite frankly. She has been hammered and pressured around her prosecutorial record. She's been pressured around her record as Attorney General of California, the state that I live in. And at the same time, in her Senate record, she has voted incredibly progressive. What that shows us is that people can change and people can meet the moment. It also means that we have to keep holding her and Vice President Biden, holding their feet to the fire, making sure that they are proactively and adequately addressing the issues that impact Black communities every single day, and that impact women every single day, and frankly, that impact Black women every single day. Both can be true at the same time.
What's the balance here? Because there are those folks who say she's not progressive enough versus those who say she's far too conservative.
Well, I say the balance here is really a question of organizing. How progressive a candidate is really depends on how organized their community is to make them more progressive. And so we certainly have our work cut out for us. We are in an incredibly pivotal moment, not just around the election, but around the issues facing this country. From a global pandemic with no solution in sight, to a deepening economic recession, to a democracy in crisis, there certainly is a lot of room for both candidates to move to make sure that they are addressing the issues that are most important to their constituents. Quite frankly, there is a movement that has been reshaping this country for nearly the last decade, and we have made a lot of progress. The time to keep working is now. We cannot stop and say that what happens in November is the end of the road. Actually, what happens in November is the beginning of the road. And we need to make sure that we are not only holding these candidates accountable, but we are also setting the agenda that they should be following, and that we see them as a vehicle to be able to achieve that agenda. It's not all about Biden and Harris. It's about our communities, and it's about building power in our communities, getting organized so that we can exercise that power to get these representatives to where we want them to be.
Latosha, how do you get people to the polls?
I think what we have to do is we have to tell the truth, that we have to get organized, that we have to tell what is at stake to help people understand what is at stake. I think that oftentimes the way that we want to get people to the polls is that we want to actually beat them over the head and make them believe in the system greater than themselves. So we've got to organize.
Thanks so much, Latosha Brown and Alicia Garza. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up next, a view of Senator Harris from those who knew her best at Howard University.
She's the real deal and hard worker, just a phenomenal friend and woman, and just so much fun to be with.
When more of our BET News special, Black America Votes, the VP Choice, continues in a moment.
Welcome back to Black America Votes, the VP Choice, a BET News special. I'm a proud alum of Howard University, the historically Black college in Washington, D.C., and so is Kamala Harris. Senator Harris graduated from Howard in 1986, the end of my freshman year, and has said that she attended Howard because she wanted to be surrounded by Black culture.
Young Kamala Harris enrolled at Howard University in 1982. It was here at an HBCU that her political persona began to develop.
Money go home, money go home, money go home.
On a campus famous for student protests, Harris's passion for justice led her to join the fight against inequality. She often reflects on her time at the Mecca, as students call it, as a pivotal chapter in her life.
Howard teaches its students that you can be everything. You can be the star of the football team, and you can be the valedictorian.
In her memoir, The Truths We Hold, An American Journey, she writes, "That was the beauty of Howard. Every signal told students that we could be anything, that we were young, gifted, and Black, and we shouldn't let anything get in the way of our success." As a freshman, Harris ran her first campaign and became a class representative. By her senior year, the Econ and Poli-Sci double major had participated in debate club, chaired the Economic Society, and pledged Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, Incorporated.
And that is truly part of the essence of our sorority, which is to stand together as sisters with our heads up, challenging others to do like we do, knowing that we must serve others.
Harris even interned in the California Senator's office. 3 decades later, that office would be hers, making Kamala Harris the second Black woman in history to serve as a U.S. Senator. Once in the Senate, she continued to advocate for HBCUs, and in 2017, the same year she was elected, gave Howard's commencement address.
It's good to be home. Decades ago, I sat just where you sit now, feeling the embrace of our Howard family.
Joining me now are 2 women who were classmates of the senator at Howard, Jill Lewis and Monique, not using your maiden name, LaBeach Poydras. Hate to do that to you, girlfriend. How are you doing?
Okay. That's okay.
you 2 had to be over the moon when the announcement was made. What was going through your mind?
You know, it was a moment because I'm in Central Time, and so it was 3:30. And my phone erupted. I was sitting actually right here in my home office, and all of a sudden, just the inputs. And my husband was working upstairs in his home office, and he screamed out my name. And then I opened up the phone to see what was happening. And it was just an overwhelming experience of this moment is here.
It had to be the same for you, Monique. And because we were all at Howard together, I know that you both really got close while pledging Alpha chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. You were on the same line known as the 38 Jewels of Iridescent Splendor. I want to know, what was she like in college?
You know, she was authentic. She was sincere. And, you know, what you see is what you get. She's the real deal. And hard worker, just a phenomenal friend and woman, and just so much fun to be with.
Clearly, she knew who she was as a Black woman, but did she talk about her West Indian roots and being of South Asian descent, Monique? I mean, that's something she shares with you.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, Kamala and I share the same cultural background. So that connection was immediate, you know, in the sense of, you know, conversation. And Howard University, you know, represents worldwide so many countries. Kamala and I embrace the fact that we shared a similar connection.
I know there's some folks out there, who, young folks in particular, who believe that the senator isn't progressive enough or have faulted her for her background as a prosecutor. What do you think when you saw the criticism?
Well, quite frankly, it's so important to be on the inside. There's a thing, and I have full disclosure, I'm a lawyer as well, as Monique, and so we understand this at a different, in a different space, which is it's important to have the people who make the decisions of how crimes are prosecuted to look like us. If we had prosecutorial offices where no one was a woman, no one was a woman of color, no one was a person of color, we would not have equal justice meted out. And I believe that incredibly strongly. And I think that when you look at some of the programs that she put in place at that time, you see that she is trying to emphasize keeping communities of color safe and keeping people of color on the right side of justice and equality and being treated fairly, even if they do have an issue where they may have committed a crime.
Quickly, any plans to celebrate with her soon?
You know, I imagine that she is on a schedule that she does not get to control, but we are celebrating with her virtually, and I have no doubt that we will have that opportunity.
And in spirit, no question. I mean, this is historical. This is a historical moment for all women, and an historical moment in time that we should embrace and we should celebrate.
A glass ceiling surely has been broken. Monique LaBeach, Poydras, and Jill Lewis, we thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you.
In this momentous, challenging, and historic year for Black folks, more history may be made on November 3rd, Election Day. Make sure your voice is heard, make sure you are registered, and make sure you vote. Thank you for watching. Good night.
If we're going to make progress anywhere, we need you everywhere. And sometimes, to make change, you've got to change how change is made. So do not be constrained by tradition. Do not listen when they say it can't be done. And do not be burdened by what has been when you can create what should be.